Thank you for being with us on this feast of Saints Philip and James. Our top story tonight, the Archbishop for Military Services is speaking out against the provision to allow abortions at the Department of Veterans Affairs medical centers in certain circumstances. In a letter released late last week, Archbishop Timothy Broglio calls the measure, quote, morally repugnant. He adds that it fails to incorporate basic conscience protections and thus creates First Amendment issues for VA employees and military commanders. We go now to Archbishop Timothy Broglio, head of the Archdiocese for the Military Services in the United States. He is also president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. Your Excellency, thank you so much for your time today. First off, could you tell us why you felt it was so important to write this letter?
I thought it was very important because my primary responsibility is the pastoral care of the men and women in uniform, their families, and also those in the system of the veterans hospitals. And I felt there was a danger that their rights would be violated because they could be forced to participate in actions which are contrary to the natural moral law and also contrary to the teaching of the Church. So I wanted to plead that they might have conscience protection so that they could abstain from participating in abortion or other activities which are immoral.
And can you tell us more, Your Excellency, about this new ruling regarding the abortions at the VA medical centers?
Well, prior to this time, abortions were not permitted on any federal facility. And so this represents a change. The VA has, at least in the initial document, there was some conscience protection. And also there were some restrictions on the practice of abortion, but it still represents a change in what had been federal law up until this point. And so it was important to make a statement really protesting this violation of human rights.
And I also know that you condemned the Department of Defense's policy, which allows taxpayer funding to cover travel-related expenses for procuring an abortion. For those who are not familiar with this policy, if you don't mind briefly telling us more about this and why it is so troubling.
Well, it's troubling because you're providing federal funding not only for the actual surgical procedure, but you're also giving people paid time off for the procedure. You are also obliging commanders who might have extreme moral difficulties with this to give this permission to sign off that the person can take this leave time, and then also authorize the funds, all of which are federal, that is your taxpayers' dollars, to fund this whole procedure. And normally it's extremely difficult to obtain travel funds and so forth for something that isn't specifically related to your military obligations. And so this also represents quite a dramatic change to what had been the policy up until this point.
Your Excellency, I'm curious, have you received any response or any type of reaction to your letter?
I've received a response from a number of people in the military and a number of others. Thus far, the response has all been favorable. I have not received any response from anyone who might be in a decision-making role regarding this question.
Yeah, we have about a minute or so left, but I quickly want to ask you this question, switching gears a bit. I know you're also very outspoken about the change in Catholic pastoral care for Walter Reed Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland. Just before Holy Week, as you well know, they ended a contract with Franciscan friars and replaced them with a secular for-profit group. We know the Biden administration said that it is reviewing the contract. Do you have any updates on that?
Yes, the Army Chief of Chaplains has taken this matter personally in his charge, and he is working diligently to try and resolve the situation so as to make sure that the contract will be given to people who can actually assure the pastoral care. In the meantime, in addition to the one active duty priest who is at Walter Reed, they have brought in two reservist Catholic priests to care for the patients. And they have also alerted the other hospitals in the Washington area who have Catholic chaplains to be on the alert if an emergency situation might present itself. So in that sense, the United States Army is doing its best both to resolve the problem and also to provide for the necessary ministry until the problem is resolved. So I'm very grateful to the Army Chief of Chaplains for his diligence.
Well, Your Excellency, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about all this. We really appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too.